Number 1.
Back when I was in college, I was leaving school at about 1 in the morning after pulling a late night at the computer lab on a final. I had a paycheck I needed to deposit, so I stopped by a drive-up ATM. Stupid me did not remember to lock my doors. I was just finishing up the deposit when a man jumped into my car. He was very drunk and wanted me to give him money and a ride. I told him I had no money, and he asked me.
So we're at an ATM for no reason, huh?
I explained I was a poor college kid and just deposited some money so some of my checks wouldn't bounce. He considered this, seemed to accept it, and still demanded a ride. He wanted me to take him to a parking garage downtown to drop him off. He wouldn't get out of the car. I was 19, weighed under 100 pounds, and had no mace or even a weapon. He was about 6 feet tall and was well over twice my weight. Spotting a gas station down the way, I said, while I did not have $20 to pull from the bank, that I could manage to get him a beer and maybe $5 cash at the register. He hesitated, then seemed agreeable, so I pulled away from the ATM and stopped at the store. When I got out of the car to pretend that I was going to get him some cash and a drink, he got out of my car also and took off down the street. From that day on, I always make sure that my doors are locked and that I carry a weapon on me.
Number 2.
When I was around 7 years old, my grandparents' house burned to the ground. I was inside with my grandma and grandpa at the time. As soon as I saw the fire, I jumped up out of bed and ran outside. My grandparents hadn't made it outside yet. I still remember waiting for them to come out, praying to God to let my grandparents be safe. Today I still have both of my grandparents, and I'm so grateful. Yet I still have nightmares about that day, and I wake up screaming. They always seem to end with my grandparents being carried out on a stretcher, deceased.
Number 3.
My husband and I were in a car, driving back from doing some errands with our 1-year-old son. A truck came out of nowhere and hit us in the rear passenger side door, where my son sat in his car seat. The car was spinning and he wasn't screaming or crying. I thought he was dead. I jumped out and jerked the door open, and he was just sitting there, with his eyes wide open. He was just stunned, and as soon as I grabbed him, he started to scream and cry. Although he was terrified, he was perfectly fine. I had small cuts and a bruise from the seatbelt, but there wasn't a scratch or bruise on him, even though the shattered glass from the window was all over his body.
Number 4.
I was working for a barricade company, and we were closing one of the 2 westbound lanes on a freeway. I was on the back of a larger work truck, which was in the closed lane, when I slipped and fell out of it into the live lane of traffic. It seemed as though time stopped, and my only thought was,
I can't die. Not like this.
Luckily, thanks to my reflexes and adrenaline, I flipped and rolled onto the shoulder of the freeway. And thankfully, because 3 seconds later, 5 cars sped by at 65 miles an hour. The whole thing happened in less than 5 seconds, though it felt like forever. After a few more similar incidents, I quit that job. I do love excitement and danger, but I want to be able to defend myself from it. And that's hard when you're facing 3-ton bullets.
Number 5.
This was a single event, but it occurred to me at 2 different times. I woke up early one morning and the entire left side of my body felt numb, and I had a difficult time moving my left arm, leg, and the side of my face. It brought me to tears because I had no control over the one thing that I actually need to survive: the use of my body. The second part was when I was in the doctor's office. He was explaining to me that I had suffered neurological damage and that he found a nickel-sized white spot on my brain, which was an indication of a stroke. That was absolutely terrifying, knowing that a part of my brain had died and I hadn't even known it. Becoming aware that I could not control something that was happening to me was the most terrifying event of my life, and I hope I never have to deal with that again.
Number 6.
I witnessed a man who had beaten his girlfriend push her out of a moving vehicle right in front of my house when I was about 15 years old. I remember screaming because I couldn't believe it happened and right in front of my eyes. About 4 years later, I was driving with my father down Interstate 4 in Florida when a girl talking on her cell phone, who was driving very fast, passed us, and some miles up ahead, she struck a semi-truck, and her car went underneath the trailer and exploded. Everyone stopped and you could hear the girl screaming. The fire was blazing up the sides of the trailer. No one, not even the truck driver, had a fire extinguisher. She died that day, and I had nightmares about it for years to come.
Number 7.
About a year ago, I was walking along an empty road late at night in a small town that everyone believed to be very safe. I was dressed provocatively, but I was walking to my grandmother's house from a party. I was not very aware of my surroundings. All of a sudden, a man came out from nowhere and asked me if I'd help him put his sailboat in his car, as he'd injured his arm. He did have a cast on, but I remember reading that Ted Bundy, the serial killer, used the same tactic to lure women away and eventually rape and kill them. I quickly panicked and said, "No, I'm about to miss curfew," though I really didn't have one, and immediately walked away and dialed my mother. Mid-conversation, I heard the man run in the other direction and heard him peel off in his car. What scared me the most was a couple of weekends after I left town and returned home. My grandma told me that a girl had been abducted. I know the likelihood of it being the same man is rare, but it still scares me.